My name is Nicola Hok, and I've been in the health and wellness industry for almost 30 years. I'm a Bowen and Emotrance practitioner and instructor, and I have clinics in both London and the New Forest. I also train therapists throughout the UK, Europe, and the Middle East. I'm really passionate about getting people to as good a place as we can get to with their health, and I feel incredibly privileged to be able to share this information with you. So thank you very much for joining the call. We're going to be learning about the foundations of elite health, but let's just see who we've got on the call at the moment. So, we've got Angie Watson. Hello, Angie. Hope you're well. Anna Gill, Annie Holmes. Let's see who else we've got. Kat Wilton. How are you, Kat?
Hey, Nick. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Have you been enjoying the sunshine today?
I have indeed. Went out for a ride on my horse this morning. Very happy girl.
Oh, lovely. I know that always puts a smile on your face.
Certainly does.
What else have you been up to?
Well, I've had been working with a few clients this week and helping them improve their health in the same way that you do.
Brilliant. It's so rewarding, isn't it?
It really, really is. So a married couple I went to see earlier in the week, they've both done the Purify program, and he had dangerously high blood pressure, and it's come down. It still needs some help, but it's heading in the right direction, which is fantastic.
Brilliant. It's so good to hear. You know, the more people we see, the more people we can help, the better.
For sure. But yeah, more importantly is my brother. You know what family's like.
Absolutely. Family are often the hardest people to help because they really don't want to hear what we've got to say.
No, and especially from me, because I'm the baby of 5, so they really don't want to hear what I've got to say half the time.
So what happened? I'm dying to know.
So, well, he's had blood pressure on the very high side of normal for quite a while now, and you know, I keep saying to him, Martin, this is a warning sign. You need to do something about this, otherwise it won't be long before the doctors put you on blood pressure medication. And you know, being my big brother, he didn't really want to listen. And then he decided to do the Purify program because his wife wanted to do it for other reasons. And yeah, lo and behold, 3 weeks later, fantastic. His blood pressure is back down to within normal ranges.
A lot of poo out there.
Out where? Oh, is there? Can we ask? Oh, great.
Oh, okay.
So it's all right. Carry on. I was just trying to check that people were muted.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm absolutely thrilled to bits because you know, I didn't really want him to have to be taking medication for the rest of his life. So yeah, very happy little sister.
Brilliant. And so his blood pressure's come right down. It's now within normal ranges.
It's within normal ranges. Yeah. I mean, he was very much kind of like, oh no, it's fine. It might be on the high side of normal, but it's still within normal. I'm just, yeah, but you know, it's a sign of something going on. So you need to take notice at this point in time and not wait until it's actually got to the place where it's you know, a real
Brilliant.
issue.
And I'm sure that's such a relief for you as well.
It really is. It really is. It was just it was like the best news I had all week. It really was. And I think he's surprised I'm so pleased. I'm not really quite sure that he understood what the implications of that were. So hopefully he's listening tonight, and he will find out a little bit more from you as well.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing. That's absolutely fabulous, and I'm so pleased for him as well. That's really great. So let's see who else we've got who's joining us on the call. We've got Jackie Barnard. Hello, Jackie. Oh, we've got my lovely mum, Jenny Hok. We've got Jeremy Townsend. We've got the lovely Liz James. We've got Louisa, who I happen to know is in Belgium. Lynn Davis, who's Oxfordshire way. Oh, and we've got Marjorie. She's Oxfordshire way as well. Marjorie, how are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Nicola.
Good. I'm really, really pleased to hear that, because when I last saw you, you were having some investigations into your health, I seem to remember. So I hope everything's okay. How are you now?
I'm very good, thanks. Yes, these investigations that were done. Nothing was conclusive on those. So I'm really fine, actually. I'm feeling really, really well.
Oh, good. I'm really, really pleased. What was it that happened originally? Because you've been struggling for a little while, I think.
Yeah, it was well over 2 years ago, actually. I was suffering a lot of stress. There was a lot of problems. And I think it all kicked off. Well, it did. It all kicked off when I went to an event in Manchester. And I didn't really feel too good. I went to the first aid unit and they checked my blood pressure. They did an ECG, and they didn't really like what they saw. I mean, the BP was frighteningly high. It was well over 200, over 100. I can't remember the exact
Oh my
figure.
Lord.
I know, it scared the life out of me.
I'm not surprised.
Very, very worrying. And then they sent for an ambulance. Of course, that set my blood pressure went up even more, I think. And
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they turned up and repeated the test, and they took me off to the Salford Hospital.
And then what happened?
And there they did a load of tests, which turned out, luckily, that they were all normal, so blood tests, X-rays, and so on. And then I was discharged. Anyway, that episode really frightened me. So once I got back home, I decided I had to do something about that. I just couldn't carry on because I realised I was in danger of having a heart attack or a stroke.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my dad had died of a heart attack, so no, I was really frightened.
So where are you at now, and what did you do?
Well, I had been given some medication by the doctor, but that made my ankles swell up. It was just absolutely awful. It made me feel really lousy. Anyway, what I decided to do was to make changes to my diet. So I cut out sugar and all the processed starchy carbs like bread, pasta, cakes, biscuits, and so on. And then I noticed I was starting to lose some weight, and I was really pleased about that. And then at the same time, I started taking the Pro-Arginine Plus, as I'd heard from other people it helped with arterial health and normalising blood pressure. And I noticed fairly quickly that my BP had come down, which is something that didn't happen with the drug that the doctor had given me.
Excellent.
So then I decided to try walking, because before I couldn't really walk very much. I was getting out of breath and that. So I started again and could do 15, 20 minutes, and it seemed much easier than it did before, before I'd made the changes.
Well, that's brilliant, and I'm really pleased that things are moving in the right direction, and I'm sure you're keeping up with your exercise and the Pro-Argi and the health changes that you've made. Absolutely.
Now I'm walking minimum 30 minutes, usually an hour, possibly more some days, really briskly. I'm doing that every day. And we went on holiday and we were doing fell walking, and that was, for about 4 or 5 hours at a time, and I didn't have any problems with that. So
that's absolutely amazing when you think where you were.
I know. I mean, it was unbelievable, really. I had my cholesterol checked by the doctor actually not so long ago, and that was absolutely normal. And my weight as well, that's stable. That's now 8.5 stone, has been for a good few months, and it used to be 10.5 stone before all this happened.
Wow, so really huge changes.
I know. Well, I think combining the lifestyle and the dietary changes together with taking the Pro-Argi has really made a huge difference to my cardiovascular health. And I can do so much more. I feel like I'm in my 40s or 50s, and rather than I'm almost 70 now. So yeah, it's been an immense change for the better. So I'm over the moon with it, really.
I'm not surprised, and it's so lovely to be able to go out and enjoy the outdoors and go fell walking and all of those good things.
I know, it's been fabulous to be able to do all that, and to feel I can.
Brilliant. I'm so pleased for you. That's absolutely excellent.
Yeah, thanks, Nicola.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Really very inspiring for a lot of people, I'm sure. So that's absolutely great. So we've now got lots of people on the call, which is great. And just for those people that weren't here right at the very, very beginning, I'll just reintroduce myself in case you've just hopped on. So my name is Nicola Hok, and I've been in the health and wellness industry for almost 30 years. I have clinics in London and the New Forest, and I also train Bowen and Emotrance practitioners and therapists throughout the UK, Europe, and the Middle East. And tonight we're going to talk about cardiovascular health and why it's so important. And I feel so incredibly blessed to be able to share this information with you. Now, one of the things, now that's, okay. Sorry, my screen was just playing up. There we go. So as you can see from the program, we have actually, next week we've got the microbiome, the following week we've got cardiovascular health week. So I'm just going to give you an overview tonight of your cardiovascular health and why it's so important. And I'm sure that most of you will be aware that, sorry, I'm struggling to change the slides over, but hopefully all will become clear imminently. No, it's not. Kim, can you possibly pop the next slide up for me, please? Because for some reason, my computer, there we go, that's better. Okay, hopefully you can all see that now. So we're talking about cardiovascular health, and I'm sure that most of you are aware that your cardiovascular system consists of our hearts, our arteries, our veins, and our capillaries. And the amazing thing is that the average child has around 60,000 miles of blood vessels, and the average adult has around 100,000 miles of blood vessels throughout the body. So that's about the equivalent in an adult of 4 times around the equator, or 15 return trips from London to New York. And it's an awfully long way for our hearts to be pumping our blood. So why would we care about this? Well, our cardiovascular system has a number of functions. And 3 of the main ones are transportation, protection, and regulation of many things. So let's have a little look at these individually. So your heart is the center of your cardiovascular system, and it is virtually responsible for just about everything that gives your body life. It transports the blood, and the average adult has around 5 litres or 8 pints for those of us who still use old money. And it's also our blood which delivers all the essential nutrients and oxygen around our body to our cells and our organs. And the blood also removes the waste and the carbon dioxide and takes it all to be processed and then removed from the body. The cardiovascular system also helps protect us from pathogens. And what this means is that it's part of our immune system. And it's our immune system that helps prevent us from catching diseases and getting infections. The platelets and the red blood cells together form scabs to seal wounds when we cut ourselves, and they prevent the blood from leaking out. And obviously, this also stops the bacteria and the infections getting in. And if any pathogens do enter our blood system, then happily our antibodies will do their best to fight the infection. So the cardiovascular system also helps our body remain in a state of homeostasis or balance. It helps us keep an even temperature by controlling the blood flow to the surface of the skin. So when we get hot, our blood vessels near the surface expand and widen to allow more blood to the surface to help cool us down. And when it's very cold, the opposite happens. Now, obviously, our blood vessels need to be nice and elastic enough to do this, which I will talk a little bit more about later. So it also helps maintain the body's pH balance, which is absolutely critical for health. And hopefully those of you who managed to listen to the fabulous presentation and webinar we had on Wednesday on alkalinity will be aware of this. So our blood should be alkaline, and if it becomes acidic, then the body will actually take calcium from the bones and magnesium from the muscles in order to maintain its alkalinity. Now, taking calcium from the bones is clearly not a great idea, as it can eventually lead to osteoporosis. Another thing that can be an indication of how well our circulatory system is functioning is how it's keeping our blood vessels clean and flexible, is our blood pressure. So one cause of blood pressure, which a lot of people are not necessarily aware of, is dehydration. And when our body's cells lack water, what happens is that the brain sends a signal to the pituitary gland to secrete something called vasopressin. Now, this is a chemical that causes our blood vessels to constrict, and that in turn causes the blood pressure to rise. So it's really, really important that we drink enough water every day. So blocked and furred up arteries also contribute to high blood pressure. One of the things that can happen is that if your arteries are too furred up, then people may, for example, have kidney problems. So often this isn't because there's a problem with the kidneys, but because the blood isn't getting to the kidneys to nourish them. So here's what happens. When the kidneys need more blood, they send a message to the brain. The brain then sends a message to the heart saying, please pump harder, we need more blood. The heart then pumps harder to send blood to the kidneys who are struggling, but this increases the blood pressure. Now, if you were then to go to the doctor and they were to notice this, a lot of people find that they are then put on medication to stop the heart pumping so much blood, and thus it reduces their blood pressure. However, this just stops the heart pumping so much blood. In the meantime, what do you think in this case is happening to the kidneys? Well, the kidneys will be crying out for more, but being ignored. And without an adequate blood supply and the nutrition they need, they then can't function properly. And this is one of the things that can then lead to damage of the kidneys. So it would seem much better to me to increase the blood flow rather than to mask the problem. As somebody once said to me, if you think about driving your car, if the oil light comes on, would you stop or go to the garage and have the problem fixed? Or would you take the bulb out of the dashboard and mask the problem? Controlling your cholesterol also plays a really important role in cardiovascular health, as it decreases your risk of heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. Now, there are two main kinds of cholesterol. There is the bad cholesterol, which is the low density lipoprotein, or LDL for short, and the high density lipoprotein, which is commonly known as HDL, or good cholesterol. Again, diet plays a big part in our cholesterol levels, and if the LDL builds up, it can calcify into hard plaque within the blood vessels, which can cause damage to them. So something clearly to be avoided. Now, when these fatty materials such as cholesterol form deposits on the wall of the vessels, furring up the artery and reducing the space for the blood to flow, obviously that's going to increase your blood pressure. And if the plaque then ruptures the artery walls, blood cells and what are called platelets will try to repair the damage, but this will very often, or will cause a clot to form. Over time, the walls of the blood vessels will lose their elasticity, and this can also contribute to the development of high blood pressure or hypertension, which can again cause more damage to the blood vessels. The force of the blood being pumped from the heart can make the clot break away from the artery wall and travel through the system until it reaches a section where it's too narrow to pass through. If this happens, the narrow section will become partially or completely blocked. Blockage of an artery leads to the part of the body it supplies being starved of the oxygen and nutrients it needs. And this is one of the causes of heart attacks and strokes, depending on where the clot or blockage is. So let's also have a little look at diabetes. Now, diabetes is a condition where either the insulin made by the pancreas doesn't work properly, or your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin. And some people would say, well, why does this have to do with cardiovascular health? Well, the problem is that this will lead to excess sugar in the blood. Your body will still convert the carbohydrates from what you eat and drink into glucose, but the body is unable to release the insulin to control the blood glucose levels. And the blood vessels are damaged by high glucose levels as well as high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So it's really doubly important for people with diabetes to manage this aspect of their health. Many diabetics will also have peripheral vascular disease, meaning that the blood supply to their limbs may be compromised, and that can eventually result in amputation, which clearly, we need to avoid if at all possible. So let's now look at how we can help people's arteries remain clear. Within our cardiovascular system is something called the endothelium. And this could really be considered the biggest organ in the body because it does have a function. It is a one-cell thick layer that lines the entire cardiovascular system. And in fact, our capillaries are just an extension of this. Now, our capillaries are absolutely microscopic, and about 10 of them, all bundled together, would be about the same thickness as a single human hair. So you can see they're really quite tiny wee. Now, this is the business end of your blood flow network, and it's where the nutritional exchange takes place. Without blood flow at this level, cells either die or they don't function well. The more blood can flow, the more nutrients are delivered to the cells. So the endothelium really is truly remarkable. However, given that it is only one cell thick, it can easily be damaged, and the cells can be destroyed, leaving gaps in the lining for fatty deposits and other detritus to attach. One of the main functions of the endothelium is to convert the amino acid L-arginine into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide positively remodels the lining, but its main job is as a vasodilator. So it helps with the elasticity of your blood vessels and also with keeping them clean. And when we have, in 2 weeks' time, we have a whole series of webinars on cardiovascular health and one specifically on nitric oxide. So I am going to talk a little bit about it, but not a huge amount. So as we age, our body's ability to convert the arginine into nitric oxide diminishes. And between the ages of 20 and 60, our nitric oxide production reduces by 85%. So by the time we're in our 30s, our arteries are beginning to thicken. In our 40s, we have only 50% capacity to produce nitric oxide, and we're starting to get inflammation in the cardiovascular system and a buildup of plaque. By our 50s, we start to get stiffening of the arterial walls and calcium buildup. And from our 60s onwards, we only have the capacity to make 15% of the nitric oxide that we need. And we're at risk of rupture in the arterial walls. So, as I said earlier, why would we care about our cardiovascular health? Well, as long as it works, that's great, but our lifestyle and the choices we make affect how it functions, and that can affect how we feel and what we can do. There are a long list of things which are considered cardiovascular disease, such as heart attack, stroke, angina, high blood pressure, etc. But thankfully, most cardiovascular problems are preventable, and prevention is always better than cure. Changing how we live is really powerful. The EPIC study, which was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine Studies, looked at over 23,000 people's adherence to 4 principles. Now, these 4 principles were not smoking, taking 3.5 hours of exercise a week, which is around 30 minutes a day, eating a healthy diet of fruit, veg, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and finally maintaining a healthy weight. The results of this study show that doing these 4 things can prevent 93% of diabetes, 81% of heart attacks, 50% of strokes, and 36% of cancers. Furthermore, the InterHeart study, which was published in The Lancet in 2004, found that changing lifestyle could prevent 90% of all heart disease. So there really is a lot that we can do. Now, these are part of large audience-based studies showing that lifestyle is often far more effective in reducing cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, etc., diabetes, cancer, than almost any other treatment. And the reason for this is because lifestyle and environmental factors don't only reduce the risk factors, they also influence the mechanisms and causes of disease. So let's see what we can do to help ourselves. Well, some of the main things that contribute towards problems are smoking, drinking, having too much sugar in our diet, being inactive, and consuming processed foods. Did you know that if you had a very toxic body, a lot of those toxins will be stored in your fat cells, and this can lead you to accumulating more fat? Now, what is extraordinary is that if you put on a pound of fat, your body grows an extra 7 miles of blood vessels. And that means that the heart has even further to then pump the blood. Happily, if we lose that extra pound of fat, then the body will reabsorb the extra blood vessels that it no longer needs, and it will take the pressure off the heart, which is great. So one of the best ways to prevent problems is to stay physically active and to maintain a healthy weight. Get some exercise every day, even if it's just a brisk walk. Take the stairs instead of the lift. If you drive to work, park your car at the far end of the car park rather than as close to the door. Make sure that you eat plenty of fruits and veggies, give up smoking, and try either some mindfulness or some breathing techniques to help reduce your stress levels, and make sure you drink plenty of water. We can also boost our nitric oxide production by eating more foods which are a source of L-arginine. And these include things like shrimps, raw eggs, hazelnuts, lentils, chicken breasts, watercress, spinach, and a host of others. The problem with this is that we need between about 5 and 20 grams of arginine a day. Now, to get 5 grams of arginine, you would need to eat 170 hazelnuts or 850 grams of lentils, 3.5 kilos of watercress or 270 grams of shrimp, just over 1 kilo of spinach, or 12 eggs. And remember, they have to be raw. So the alternative is to supplement. Now, Synergy's Pro-Arginine Plus is a patent pending supplement based on Nobel Prize winning science, and it's listed in the physician's desk reference. The PDR is the medical bibliography that the doctors in the States use to prescribe medicines. And as you can see on the slide, it says that it is the highest quality L-arginine supplement in the world. Now, that's quite a statement. And Synergy didn't ask for it to be placed in this book, and they didn't write that it was the highest quality supplement. So I think that says quite a lot about it. It's also a really affordable way to get the arginine that you need, and frankly, I'd much rather take that than eat a dozen raw eggs every day. So I hope that you now have some ideas as to how to take care of and protect your cardiovascular health, and that you've enjoyed this little nugget. As Monday is a bank holiday, the next call that we have will be on Tuesday, the 8th of May, again at 6 o'clock. The topic for next week is gut health and the microbiome. And the wonderful Kim Bradley, who's a good friend of mine and who has been in the health and wellness industry for 20 years, will be talking about the microbiome. As many of you may know, Kim does health talks on the microbiome and gut health up and down the country, and we're bound to learn a lot. So I really hope that you'll be able to make it. Other exciting things that we have, if you'd like to know more about Synergy and the business side of things, then there is a call at 8 o'clock on Sunday with Simon Bradley, Kim's husband. Great way that they're going to be celebrating their wedding anniversary, preparing for their talks. And I love this business because it's such a great way to help so many people, and Simon's passion for this business will definitely come through, and he's always very eloquent in his explanation, so do hop onto that call if you can. Finally, for those that choose to join us, we have a great, fantastic Business Accelerator Training Day to help get everybody started and motivated, and also to help people with their health and well-being, and that's on the 9th of June, and it would be great to see you there if you can make it. So it just remains for me to say that if you would like more support, or if you have questions or want to find out the best way to order any ProArgi or any other products that are mentioned in any of these webinars, then do please get in touch with the person that shared this webinar link with you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have a great bank holiday weekend, and here's to your good health. Thank you very much.